Prepare to hear a truth that might hurt, but it's a necessary one. You have been deceived, mistaking false feelings for genuine ones. You've been led to believe that what you perceive as love is, in fact, fear. Fear of loneliness, fear of not being good enough, fear of rejection, fear of not finding someone who will validate your worth, someone who will make you feel significant. But be honest with yourself. What would happen if this person disappeared from your life tomorrow? Would you maintain your integrity, or would you collapse like a house of cards, held together only by their presence? That constricting knot in your stomach, the trembling in your hands when a message goes unanswered, the sleepless nights spent frantically checking their last online status. This is not love. This is anxiety, cleverly disguised as love. It's a painful attachment, emotional dependency. And the most frightening part is that you accept it as love because you were never taught to love without need, without a desperate craving for another person. As Carl Jung ruthlessly and accurately observed, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But no, this isn't transformation, it's self-destruction. You dissolve into another's reflection just so they won't leave. You diminish yourself, reject your essence, betray your own dreams because you're terrified they won't choose you. You're convinced that without them, you are nothing. Here it is, the bitter truth you desperately try not to hear. What you perceive as love is merely an addiction. You're tethered to them like an addict to a dose because they provide you with feelings you cannot give yourself. They temporarily fill that gaping void you don't even dare to look at. Do you know what attachment is? It's the false belief that you desperately need someone. It's that treacherous whisper inside that insists, without them, I will die. But you won't die. You will endure. You will piece yourself back together. You will be reborn. Because loneliness, when faced without fear, becomes your wisest mentor. Attachment is the shackles of fear. Love is the wings of freedom. Attachment keeps you in a cage. Love expands the boundaries of your world. And until you realize this fundamental difference, you will continue to mistake prison walls for embraces. You will continue to naively believe that to love means to possess, to hold on to control. Jung deeply understood human nature. We tend to project our inner voids onto others, desperately searching in the external world for what we cannot find within ourselves. This is why attachment has become so ingrained in our lives. We walk around as if with unhealed wounds, naively believing that another's skin can heal them. Thus, we turn into emotional vampires, greedily devouring the energy of others, feeding on their presence merely to avoid the painful gaze into the mirror of our own inadequacies. But a turning point arrives, that precise point of no return, when you realize that the love you so blindly cherished isn't saving you, but ruthlessly drowning you. And then detachment begins, not as icy rejection or emotional estrangement, but as a profound act of self-love, dictated by the instinct for self-preservation. To detach doesn't mean to stop loving. It means to start loving genuinely, without suffocating chains. It's bravely letting go of the fear of loss, understanding that true love doesn't require eternal vows or sacrifices that destroy your personality. True love calls you to become better, not worse. To grow, not to wither. To soar in the heavens, not to stand still, bound hand and foot. Detachment is an inner revolution, a daring challenge to your fears. You no longer have power over me. It's a courageous gaze into the gaping void without trembling knees. It's the realization that you don't need anyone to feel whole, because you are already whole by yourself, even if you don't see it yet, even if it's still hard for you to believe. And yes, it will be unbearably painful. Letting go is like tearing out a piece of your heart, for you've convinced yourself for so long that you couldn't breathe without them, that you'd forgotten how to walk alone. But believe me, it's possible. It's necessary. And when you finally free yourself, when the shackles fall away, the world around you will transform, not because the world itself changes, but because you will stop looking at it with eyes of hunger, eyes of need. You will see it from the fullness of your own being. To detach doesn't mean to close the door of your heart. It means to open it wide to the world, but without any ifs. It's loving without trembling in fear. It's saying, I love you with all my heart, but you are not the oxygen for my happiness. And this, however paradoxical it may sound, is the greatest gift of love you can offer, because then your love is pure, free from pressure, manipulation, and unrealistic expectations. You truly love. Jung spoke of individuation, a thorny path of self-discovery where you piece yourself together, come to know your shadow aspects, and achieve wholeness. And only from this point of stability can you build healthy relationships without losing yourself in another. You can share warmth without needing a reciprocal flame. You can love without depending on the object of your affection. Because now you are whole, healed, and you no longer need someone to fill your void. You are ready to share what you already possess, rather than seeking what's missing. But this requires courage, for attachment, however painful, is so familiar and convenient. Detachment, however, throws you into an abyss, forcing you to confront yourself face to face, leaving you alone with your shadows. And it's precisely here that many retreat, preferring the familiar prison to the void of freedom. But do you know what awaits beyond this chasm? Serenity, a peace that depends on no one, a stability that no one's absence can shake, a love born from within and flowing outward, not the other way around. And then understanding dawns. To let go is not a loss, but a gain. Gaining yourself, restoring your wholeness, reuniting with your strength, your essence, your true self. True love does not inflict pain, instill anxiety, manipulate, or demand that you abandon yourself to preserve it. If your heart clenches with pain, if you feel insignificant next to them, if sleep flees from you, this is not love. These are merely the chains of attachment. And this bond, no matter how it dresses itself in the garments of romance, is your personal, emotional prison. Do you crave true love? Master the art of solitude. Learn to embrace it as a gift. Look into the darkest corners of your soul. Become your own support when the world around you crumbles. Don't seek yourself in the reflection of another's eyes. Only then can you look another person in the eye and say, I choose you, but I don't need you. And in this lies the cruel truth. For most people don't love. They desperately cling. They cling to another like a life raft, just to avoid being alone with themselves, just to avoid feeling the dizzying emptiness from a lack of self-love. And so they live, bound by attachment, dependent, broken, confusing love with suffering, intense emotions with sincerity, and passion with painful addiction. But there is another path. Yes, it's harder, but it leads to truth. It's the path of conscious liberation, the path of emotional freedom, a path that will lead you to love born from abundance, not from agonizing scarcity. Look deep into your soul. Ask yourself honestly, why is it so unbearable to let go? What part of me, as I naively believe, will die with the departure of another person? What gaping chasm am I desperately trying to fill with their presence? And it is there, at the very core of this question, that the root of your painful attachment lies. Uproot this core, not with anger or resentment, but with deep self-compassion, unconditional love, and boundless patience. For it's not about hating the other person, but about loving yourself so profoundly that you no longer depend on anyone, so that you can finally feel your own worth and self-sufficiency. And this, though acutely painful at first, is the purest and most sublime form of love that can exist. Remember, true love is not possession. It's a free and joyful presence alongside, a voluntary companionship, an elegant dance of two souls, not a binding chain. If you have to hold on, compel, or control, that's no longer love, it's merely fear. And fear, as we know, doesn't build, it ruthlessly destroys. So let go. Let go with your head held high. Let go with love in your heart. Let go knowing firmly that letting go is not losing, but making a conscious choice in favor of yourself. And when you choose yourself, when you tenderly embrace your soul, when you finally stop desperately searching in the outside world for what you've long carried within you, the world around you magically transforms. Because you've stopped begging for love like a beggar asking for alms. You no longer settle for meager crumbs of attention, no longer desperately cling to those who cannot be your support. You no longer dissolve completely into another's life, losing yourself. Now you have yourself, a whole, strong, self-sufficient person, and this is the most incredible achievement imaginable. Detachment is not icy aloofness, but a sign of emotional maturity, the fruit of awareness. It's the understanding of life's fragility, the knowledge that everything that comes can just as easily go, and the ability to maintain inner peace through it all. It's the realization that true security, unshakable confidence, is not in the external world, not in another person, but within you. And only by relying on this inner security can you love without fear, open yourself to the world without demanding expectations, and share your soul without fear of losing yourself. Because you are no longer seeking someone to fill the gaping void within, someone to complete you, you choose to generously share your inner fullness, your abundance. And this message perhaps sounds harsh. Yes, it might cause pain, but it is absolutely necessary. As long as you mistakenly take your acute need for someone as love, you will remain in a cage of your own illusions, condemned to suffering, to repeating destructive patterns that methodically destroy you from within. It's time to shake off the delusion, open your eyes, and bravely face your painful attachments, decisively declaring, "You no longer have power over me. I no longer need you." It's time to move towards true love. Love that doesn't bind with chains, doesn't issue ultimatums, doesn't consume you entirely, but grants freedom and inspiration. Love, true love, it is freedom, support, creation. And it doesn't begin with another person, but with yourself. It is born within, in your heart. When you are in harmony with yourself, the world around you gains meaning, everything falls into place. And only then are you capable of truly loving. Now, consider this. What if emotional dependency not only distorts your understanding of love, but also disfigures your personality? Are you ready to hear a bitter truth? When you become attached to someone, you inadvertently start conforming to their expectations, like a chameleon changing its colors. You betray yourself to become what you believe the other person wants to see. You transform into an edited, false version of yourself. And do you know what's most terrible? Often this other person didn't even ask you to do this. You did it yourself, out of fear, out of an animal instinct. If I don't change, they'll leave me. And here we delve into the depths of Jungian psychology, into the shadow, that suppressed part of you that you hide, that you ignore, but which never disappears. It's always there, waiting for its moment. When attachment creeps into your heart, you start building relationships, as if constructing a facade, putting on a mask. You only show what you believe the other is ready to accept, carefully hiding your emotional wounds, your innermost desires, your very essence. And while this keeps you together, this falsehood slowly corrodes you from within, like rust. Emotional dependency doesn't just shackle you to another person, it alienates you from yourself. You lose your footing, forget your personal boundaries, and stop hearing the voice of your intuition. You begin to live in unison with the other. Their joy becomes your joy, their aloofness, your personal downfall. You transform into a reflection, not a person, but an echo of someone else's emotions, passively repeating them. And what happens when you become this echo? You feel depleted. Chronic anxiety, cleverly disguised as love, infiltrates your life. Every decision, every word, even the silence of the other, turns into a test, a potential threat. After all, your emotional stability no longer depends on yourself. It is entirely handed over to someone else. And this is incredibly dangerous because no one, absolutely no one, is obligated to be the guardian of your inner world. This is precisely where relational neurosis arises, a concept not often discussed, but alas, more than real. This is that precarious boundary where your romantic story transforms into an unending drama, a closed loop of pain, and you repeatedly play out the same scenario, unaware that the roots of the problem lie deep in your subconscious. As Jung said, what we refuse to acknowledge becomes our destiny. And so you enter similar relationships again and again. Faces change, but the plot remains the same. Relationships where love is a desperate need, where you dissolve into another, sacrificing yourself for a drop of validation, where all-consuming fear reigns supreme. But in this dark realm, there's an even more insidious demon: idealization. It's a mirage you create yourself, elevating your partner to an unattainable pedestal. You don't see a living person with all their strengths and flaws, but merely a phantom image woven from your projections. And the higher you elevate them, the smaller you become. At this moment, the fragile structure collapses, for love is a dance of equals. When you diminish yourself, the connection ceases to be love and transforms into emotional slavery, full of pain and dependency. But is there truly no way out of this labyrinth? There is. You need to look within yourself, into that dark corner where your restless solitude hides, the one you so diligently avoid. For if you don't learn to be alone with yourself, you will always seek someone to fill that void. And the cycle will repeat again. And the most terrible thing is, you will inevitably demand it. You'll become a demanding controller, consumed by insecurity, not out of malice, but from emotional wounds. You'll try to patch up love like a bandage, when what you desperately need is complex emotional surgery. Jung spoke of the integration of anima and animus, the inner feminine and masculine energies residing within each of us. When this integration doesn't occur, we desperately search in the external world for what we lack internally. This agonizing search leads to painful attachment, but when you dare to do the inner work, when you embrace your wholeness and stop seeing others as a saving complement, a true miracle will happen. You will begin to build relationships out of desire, not desperate need, out of conscious choice, not animal fear, out of fullness, not gaping emptiness. And then love will transform. It will cease to be a frantic race for survival and become a beautiful, boundless expansion. You no longer seek a savior in another. You seek a fellow traveler with whom to share your journey. You no longer demand, but generously offer. You don't frantically cling, but openly share, because your love is born not from hunger, but from immense abundance. To achieve true intimacy, you must pass through the desert of detachment. It's a lifeless, solitary place, strewn with distorted mirrors where you are left alone with yourself. Here, there's no one to blame but yourself. You must look into the mirror with ruthless honesty and admit, this is not love. It's the primal fear of loneliness. This phrase, like the crack of a whip, is painful, but it's the beginning of your liberation. Once you realize this, you won't be able to close your eyes to the truth anymore. You will no longer be satisfied with pathetic imitations of relationships. You'll stop confusing tumultuous passions with true love. You will no longer sacrifice your peace of mind for the company of someone who doesn't even bother to see you. You will gain insight. And although this will inevitably lead to the loss of some people, in return, you will find yourself. It is at this moment that the process becomes sacred. You will realize that detachment is not coldness, but the healing of bleeding wounds. It's not indifference, but respect for your own person. It's not resignation, but a conscious choice. It means saying, I love you, but not at the cost of my soul. This is the maturity that allows you to let go of what destroys you, even if it causes unbearable pain. It means stopping trading your worth for a meager dose of attention. And then, when you reach this summit, something inevitable and sometimes painful occurs. Your inner melody changes, and you begin to attract entirely different souls. People who aren't looking for a missing part in you, but want to share the journey with you. Those who don't need you like air, but choose you consciously with their heart. Who don't try to consume your essence, but on the contrary, help it to flourish. For now, you radiate not the energy of need, but the light of self-sufficiency. This is where the most challenging and simultaneously beautiful test begins. Many will leave your life. Many simply won't be able to understand and accept your newfound freedom. They won't endure that you no longer need them, for they were accustomed to being someone's life-saving oxygen, and now, seeing you breathe freely on your own, they feel unnecessary. Confusion and resentment are visible in their eyes. But this is no longer your concern. Your sole responsibility is to yourself, to your inner world. This is the true path of transformation, when you stop begging for love and begin to radiate it yourself. When you no longer seek embraces to quell loneliness, because you've learned to embrace yourself. When silence ceases to be a terrifying enemy and transforms into your personal sanctuary, a place of strength and inspiration. When you realize that your true worth was never reflected in the eyes of others, but lived in your own gaze upon yourself, in those moments when no one is watching. Yes, there will be falls, setbacks, for we are only human, and the fear of loneliness doesn't vanish with a snap of the fingers. But each time you choose your peace of mind over society that destroys you, you rewrite your story. This is where strength, true love, and long-awaited freedom lie. Do you crave true love? Stop begging to be filled. Start filling yourself. And then share that abundance. Because genuine love doesn't need chains. It only needs wings. Wings to fly together, side by side or apart, but always in harmony. True love doesn't shackle. It accompanies you on your journey. And that, believe me, is the most important thing. If you've reached these lines, it means something within you already knows this. Somewhere deep down, perhaps muffled for years, an inner voice is starting to scream, enough. This isn't love, it's destroying me. And this voice, no matter how much you try to silence it with excuses, empty hopes like maybe they'll change or it's not that bad, and this voice will no longer be quiet. It will grow louder and louder until you hear it. So let's delve deeper to the very origins. Emotional dependency doesn't begin in your current relationships, and it's not about the other person at all. It all started much earlier, in your childhood, in that very moment when someone, perhaps even unknowingly, instilled in you to earn love. You had to give something in return, to be obedient, quiet, useful, to be perfect, inconspicuous, not to bother, not to cry too loudly, not to be angry, not to be yourself. From that moment you learned love is given on certain conditions. To receive it, you first had to earn it. And here it is, the root of the problem. An adult suffering from love addiction today is that same child who once felt not good enough. This is where the true wound lies. Your partner isn't destroying you, but you are repeatedly playing out a scenario learned back when you couldn't even name your feelings. Carl Jung called this the wounded inner child. And it's not just a beautiful metaphor, it's the reality of our psyche. This child lives within you, and if you ignore it, it takes over. It forces you to act out of pain, not awareness. It compels you to cling, to beg, to endure the unbearable, just to avoid confronting that very first wound again. the wound of rejection. But there's something else that torments the soul when wounds remain unhealed: the fatal mistake of falling in love with potential, not reality. You see in another not what is, but merely the shadow of who they could become if they changed. And you cling to this phantom image of the future like a life raft. They'll grow up, they'll understand, they'll stop. And you become a hostage to a promise destined never to materialize. You build a relationship with someone who exists only in your imagination, and life passes by. You postpone dreams, sacrifice dignity, whispering to yourself, just a little longer. But that little longer stretches into years, and when the veil falls from your eyes, you realize with horror that your precious allotted time has been squandered on relationships that existed only in your hopes. This is the cruelty of attachment. It steals the present, luring you into the trap of a future that will never arrive. But that's not all, for attachment has another, even more insidious guise. It makes you addicted to drama. Yes, you heard right. There are people who feel lost in silence because they've lived on an emotional roller coaster for so long that healthy love seems bland and boring to them. Love is measured not by a storm of passions, but by a quiet harbor. When there is no jealousy, no drama, no agonizing partings and tearful reunions, a deceptive feeling arises that something is missing. But this is a cunning trap. Emotional chaos is merely adrenaline, a drug that, while intoxicating, exhausts the soul, leaving nothing in return. Have you ever noticed how you sometimes push away those who love you sincerely and selflessly? Those who don't demand sacrifices, who don't force you to break yourself for their love? Those who give you warmth without asking for anything in return. Why? Because your soul is wounded and accustomed to pain. You've unlearned how to accept love without suffering. You don't know what to do when there's no struggle, when everything is calm and good. And this too is an addiction, an attachment to pain, to familiar destruction that feels habitual and safe to you. How do you break free from this vicious cycle? First and foremost, realize it. Stop justifying what causes you pain. Stop romanticizing what makes you feel worthless. No, jealousy is not love, but a poison that contaminates the soul. No, suffering is not a measure of the depth of feelings. Love should not cost you your mental health. It should heal and elevate you. And stop seeking salvation externally. Stop waiting for someone else to change so you can feel worthy of love, so you can finally be noticed and appreciated. It's time to turn your gaze inward, for the love you so desperately crave from others is the very love you persistently deny yourself. And here enters a forgotten yet vitally important truth: self-validation. It's the ability to confidently declare, "This is who I am, this is what I feel, this is what I need, and this is what I will never tolerate." And to stand firm even if it means losing someone dear, because ultimately losing someone who is incapable of loving the real you is not a loss, but the greatest blessing. But you cannot realize this until you learn to be happy in solitude, until your worth depends not on external validation, but on the inner strength born within your soul. Now, let's look even deeper. What if love isn't a destination, but merely a fair wind? What if your true goal isn't finding the perfect partner, but achieving inner harmony and wholeness? When you are at peace with yourself, nothing external can break you. Encounters with others don't fill a void, but merely multiply what you already possess. And even if someone leaves your life, it doesn't destroy you. Yes, it might wound, cause pain, but it won't break you because wholeness already lives within you. Jung spoke of the self, the core of our essence, an unshakable center impervious to external storms. When you live relying on this inner anchor, the need for external approval, validation, or support falls away. You become your own lighthouse. And then any relationships you build become free, transparent, authentic. They are born not from need, but from the meeting of two whole individuals. Yes, it sounds beautiful, but this path is arduous. There will be tears, there will be the temptation to go back, even a longing for what caused pain, because the mind gravitates towards the familiar, even if destructive. But each time you choose peace over drama, each time you embrace yourself amidst emptiness, you free yourself. You rewrite your emotional history. You stop picking at the wound and begin to create from the scar. And most importantly, you'll have to accept that not everyone you love is ready to reciprocate. You'll have to look someone in the eye and acknowledge there's no one to blame. It just wasn't meant to be. It didn't align. It didn't work out. To let go is not a failure, but a wise decision of a mature heart. It's the realization that love knows when to stop, to delicately close the door, to grant freedom, not from a lack of feelings, but from deep self-love. This is genuine detachment, devoid of resignation, coldness, or indifference. It is love in its crystal purity, love that allows itself to leave when staying is tantamount to betraying one's own soul. And when this moment arrives, something within you is forever freed from its chains. You suddenly understand that the greatest love story isn't a passion for another person, but a tender regard for yourself, for your path, your evolution, your consciousness. The love of your life is you when you finally stop betraying your own dreams and desires. What seems like a loss is often a salvific act of destiny, freeing you from everything that no longer serves a purpose, that holds you back, that prevents you from spreading your wings. But of course, it causes pain. It's unbearably painful to let go, painful to be alone with yourself, painful to look back and realize that the person who once filled all your thoughts and feelings is no longer by your side. But what if this pain isn't a curse, but a herald of healing? Yes, the break burns like a hot brand, but it's followed by ruthless clarity, a pure, unclouded gaze, silence in the soul, and a heart finally breathing freely, liberated from its chains. For few understand, loneliness is not a gaping void. Loneliness is a state of mind, while emptiness is a bleeding wound. And when you heal that wound, loneliness ceases to be a punishment, transforming into a temple, a refuge, a sacred place where you can finally hear yourself in silence without the deafening noise of the world. And then something almost magical happens. You stop begging for love, pleading for its crumbs, chasing after someone, gasping for breath, because you suddenly realize that nothing is more precious than your inner peace. No one is worth losing yourself trying to hold on to them. You came into this world not to humbly beg, but to create, to know yourself, to soar above the mundane. And if someone wants to share your path, excellent. But if not, you keep moving forward, not out of pride, but out of a deep awareness of your worth. Remember, love is not shackles, but wings that grant freedom. Genuine love is not a turbulent hurricane of passions, throwing you from ecstasy to despair. True love doesn't need desperate cries to be heard. It doesn't demand absurd sacrifices or present an agonizing choice between yourself and your beloved. True love doesn't hurt. Pain is caused only by the chains of attachment, illusions, unfulfilled dreams, and desperate resistance to reality. Now that you know this, what will you do? Will you continue to cling to dependency, or will you dare to cross the threshold to your true self? For the path begins precisely there, the moment you stop begging for love and start cultivating it within your own heart. From this moment on, your love will never be the same. You will no longer be able to build relationships according to old, outdated patterns, because now you see clearly, now you see the truth. And having known it, there is no turning back. We will meet where it matters most. In the depths of your soul.